Most people are in agreement that to be a good person, you need to be the kind of person who treats animals well. At least it's definitely true that if you're the kind of person who makes messes with animals or tries to hurt them, you are definitely only a pretty bad human being. But you might also be kind of stupid because not all animals are defenseless creatures who can't take care of themselves. Some of them will mess with you right back from the line, who didn't want to be on TV, to the kangaroo that packs a real punch. Here's top terrifying moments when people mess with the wrong animals. Number 15. Lion. One thing we've learned about lions over the thousands of years we've been living alongside them is that they can be pretty ferocious if they're in the mood to be better. To just stay away from them as much as possible. One thing that is definitely a bad idea is to go wandering into one of their cages, especially if you are a random journalist with no experience working with lions. Charles Starmer Smith of Britain's Daily Telegraph headed out to the Legends Lion Sanctuary in South Africa, and along with his TV crew, they were taken into the cage of 1-year-old Mappin Pen, who was being bred to be released into the wild. Ari, the lion expert at the sanctuary, took Mapping Pan in when he found him injured and alone at the side of the road. First of all, it seemed that Mapping Pan just wanted to play with Charles, chewing his shoe and even rolling over to get a belly scratch. But then something changed, and the lion let out a growl. Mapping Pan began circling and growling and then went in and attacked Charles, all of which was caught on camera. Luckily, Ari was able to intervene and give Mapping Pan a few hard smacks on the nose with a stick, which made the lion back off. Charles says the encounter hasn't stopped his fascination with lions, but next time he'll observe them from the safety of a Land Rover. Number 14. Kangaroo. Back in the old days, people noticed that kangaroos fight for dominance using a kind of boxing technique. They lean back on their tails and then hit each other with their front paws to see who is the strongest. Then someone had the bright idea of thinking it would be great to find out who is the best boxer, kangaroos or men. Well, as you can see in this video, one of the problems is trying to explain all the details of the Queensberry rules to a kangaroo. They just don't get the part where you're not supposed to use your legs, all three of them. In the case of the kangaroo, because that tail is like an extra long leg crossed with a portable bar stool. Anyway, the man is forced to turn his back on this excitable kangaroo because he's just not going to let him stand around being all human like that. Nope, he's going to try and pound them into a pulp with those massive feet. Hopefully someone will throw in the towel before things get wild. Number 13. Baby elephant. On this TV show in Nairobi, Kenya, a man is doing his best to explain to the viewers what the problem facing African elephants is, but he's having a hard time doing it because of the problem that is facing him. A baby African elephant. This guy might only be a calf, but he's still packing a hefty shove and he seems determined to show off his headbutting skills on this poor guy, and there's not a whole lot our TV host can really do about it. Kamo probably just wants to play, but playing headbutts with an elephant of any size is no easy task, and Kamo is going to squash the guy if this goes on any longer. He puts a brave face on it and tries to continue his appeal. It's hard to explain to the elephants that you are there to try and help them. It seems maybe they are right to be wary since the biggest threat facing African elephants is in fact human poachers. When Kamo grows up, let's hope he gets to use his headbutt special on one of the poachers, this time with his tusks fully grown. Number 12. Monkey. If you made the mistake of thinking that monkeys aren't smart, well, that would be a bad mistake because they certainly are smart and everyone knows it except for this guy. In this video taken at Jesus Temple in Dewa County, we see a tourist sneaking up behind a wild macaque and then pushing him into the water. But there is no way the macaque is going to let that rude gesture go unpunished. The macaque leaps out and immediately starts trying to chase the man, who loses a shoe as he flees. The man leaps into a nearby building, but pretty soon the macaque has radioed for backup, and now there's a gang and ready to deal out some justice. Working as a team, they attack the man, who ended up suffering scratches and bites. Other visitors seem to be laughing at the whole scene, but you can bet that the man who attacked the monkey wasn't laughing anymore once they taken their revenge. Let's hope he learned his lesson and won't be messing with any more of these monkeys from now on. Number 11. Swan. Sometimes you have to mess with an animal for their own good, and there's just no way you can explain to them what's going on. This man was lurking around a pond with a net in his hand looking to catch something. When he saw his prey, he almost dived headfirst into the pond to catch it. And as we can see, he was successful. He got what he wanted, a cygnet or baby swan. He quickly put the baby swan in his net and then had to make his escape as the swan's mother was on the charge. Swans are big and powerful birds who can cause some pretty serious injuries when they attack, and they are known to be particularly aggressive when defending their chicks from predators. However, it turns out that this man is not a predator at all, but he has noticed the baby swan's neck had been tangled up in some abandoned fishing hooks, so he jumped in to catch it so he could save it from its painful situation. The swan mom was confused and scared, so she still tried to get the man to back off, and you can't really blame her. So the man finished up his operation a little further away and then was able to release the cygnet back with its mother. Number 10. Alpaca. This woman thought she had made a new friend out on the farm. Day. A friendly-looking alpaca had come up to the fence and seemed like he wanted to be petted by her. So she duly obliged and started to pet his woolly neck for a while. But the alpaca was still after something else and began leaning its head and closer to the woman. She maybe thought the alpaca was going in for a kiss, but alpacas don't like the kiss. They prefer to get straight to the spitting in the face. Seems like at some point she probably should have backed off and left the animal alone, but she was determined to keep petting it for as long as she possibly could. And then the inevitable happened with her ending up with a face full of gross alpaca. Spit alpacas, camels, and llamas alpid as a kind of self-defense if they are feeling afraid or unsure about someone. And as you can see, it's a pretty effective strategy as this woman was out of there like a shot. Number 9. Camel. Speaking of camels, here's one that likes to snack, but not always on actual snacks. This camel approached a family in a car, probably realizing that if he poked his head through the window in a friendly way, they might be willing to give him a few tasty treats. And luckily for the camel, that is just what this little girl did. In fact, she was so generous she gave the camel pretty much all of her snacks. Not a horsey baby, but the big camel was still hungry. So he figured that since the girl was giving him snacks, then maybe she herself was a snack. So he decided to put her head in his mouth and see if it was made of potato chips. Dad gave the camel a shove, but the camel was still hungry. So he took a deeper look in the car to see if there were any other edible children around. And when the family drove off, the camel gave chase, which looked for a moment like it might turn into an epic chase scene like in the Terminator. But the camel just stood in front of the car for a while, being kind of annoying. Number 8. Ram. Rams are known for being kind of cranky and aggressive. They are the symbol of the star sign Aries, and anyone who knows an Aries has probably noticed that they can also be kind of cranky and aggressive. Here's one big woolly ram that shows just these characteristics when a man decides to get into his enclosure and try to mess with him. To be fair to the guy, he is a pretty agile dude and able to leap right over the ram and go from side to side to avoid those big horns. But one slip up and things are going to get real painful. You might say there will be ramifications. This ram is one angry sheep, and if he's the kind that gets sheared for his wool, then I would not like to be the shearer that has to try and get him to cool down long enough and hold still. Some people may not realize, but there are more than 1 billion sheep in the world today, and if they all start going crazy like this guy, then we might be in for some serious problems. Number 7. Chimp. In this clip, a chimp has been put to work as a model for tourist photographers. Now, you and I probably hate going to work, but believe me, chimps hate it even more. They don't even usually get paid for it, so it's a pretty bad deal. Well, it seems that this chimp had had enough, and one more guy in a hideous patterned shirt was more than he could take. After the guy sat down next to him, the chimp decided to go on the attack. One thing we don't always remember about chimps is that they are way stronger than humans with heavily muscled bodies and much bigger teeth. So this was a pretty serious situation for the guy who had to wrestle a chimp. The chimp's owner managed to free the man and then went ahead and rewarded the chimp with a bowl of ice cream. Not sure if that's the best animal training I've ever seen, if I'm being completely honest. In any case, this guy was lucky not to have his head torn off by the chimp, so he can count it as a good day in the end, and he probably got his photograph hunt the house. Number 6. Ostriches. Not a lot of people know this, but birds are descended from the dinosaurs, and not just any old dinosaurs, but ones from the family, which included velociraptors and Trexes. These dinos had hollow bones, which turned out to be just the right thing to adapt into flight. When the ground got a little more complicated to live on many millions of years ago, you might not see the resemblance when you pass a pigeon on the street, but one look at an angry ostrich will surely convince you of their terrifying ancestry. This reporter found that out the hard way when she decided to do a report on ostrich eggs in a field full of ostriches. They didn't seem to like her picking up one of their giant eggs and made their feelings pretty clear with some nasty packs. This girl is one tough cookie. though, and she wasn't going to let a pack of angry birds intimidate her when she had vital news to report. Number 5. Panda. In China's Zhejiang province, a tourist was showing off how much he knew about pandas. Just cute, clumsy, adorable balls of fluff, right? So he jumped into the cage to pet this magical ball of cuteness, and that's when he was reminded that pandas are bears. They might eat bamboo all day, but they still have the teeth, claws, and strength of their regular bear cousins. And when they feel threatened, they aren't afraid to use them. To this idiot's surprise, the panda quickly pounced on his leg, biting hard and then using its superior weight to dominate the man, who was quickly in trouble. Would this be the first time in history that a crowd of people said "aw" as they watched someone die? Eventually, the man managed to make his escape, but with his leg in pretty bad shape, and that panda's day ruined his next contest. No doubt would be with the Chinese cops, who I'm sure had plenty of questions for him. Number 4. Crocodile. Playing with crocodiles is bad news. Don't play with crocodiles, kids. That's my piece of advice for today. It's going to come a little late for crocodile trainer Summit and Kamlin, who was grabbed by this croc during a show in Thailand on New Year's Eve. Summit was maybe a little too into the spirit of things as he teased and showboated with the croc, even going as far as to put his arm into the crocodile's mouth, which, believe it or not, turned out to be a big mistake. The croc closed its mouth with that incredible biting power and then dragged Summit into a death roll, where the croc tries to kill large prey by spinning them around in the water until they either drown or just pulled to pieces. The croc managed to sever part of Summit's arm, but in truth, he was extremely lucky to survive. Just before this incident, a female French tourist was killed when posing with a captive crocodile for a photograph. Like I said, don't play with crocodiles, kids. Number 3. Deer. You might think that a deer is not going to be as much of a problem as a crocodile. But if you have to face down an angry buck white-tailed deer you have just shot at, you might change your mind. 66-year-old Thomas Alexander was out hunting white-tailed deers near Yellville, Arkansas when he began tracking a blood trail from a buck he had shot. Once he found the deer, it turned out that suddenly the hunter had become the hunted. The buck didn't take long to figure out it was Thomas who was responsible for all the shards of metal he now had in his body, and so he went on the attack. Luckily, Thomas was able to survive and managed to contact his wife, who called 911. Unfortunately, there's no 911 for deer, so you can hardly blame this buck for wanting to go down fighting against the man who tried to kill him. Perhaps Thomas will take up a more benign hobby in the future and leave the whitetails to go about their business in peace. Number 2. Bison. At Yellowstone Park, a man with all the brains of Homer Simpson decided to jump out of his car to taunt a bison he was passing. The bison was passing in between cars, and the man decided to leap out of his and hassle the bison a little for. I don't know, some reason the bison didn't seem too interested at first and ended up walking off to the side of the road. But the man was desperate for some bison attention, so he chased after the big animal and begun beating his chest like a gorilla at the beast. This proved to be the last straw, hence the bison went ahead and began charging at the man, apparently sick of his provocation. Other people began filming, one of whom can be heard saying, "I can't watch," as it looked like the big dumbass was about to be trampled to death. In the end, it seems both man and bison got kind of tired of the whole stupid game and walked off their separate ways. Number 1. Pig. Here in this clip, we see a pretty regular scene of our old friends the pigs. However, if you look very closely, you will see that one of the pigs is not really a pig at all. It's the one who is hobbling around with a chair wearing track pants, in case you are still struggling to figure it out. Anyway, this guy is doing a great impression of looking like a pig, but he's also up to no good, hoping to trap the baby piglet nearby. Chair pig gets closer and closer to the baby, and eventually is close enough to pounce. Well, not pounce, kind of waddle faster and gravitated legs, but just nearby. Mama Pig is keeping guard, and she is not at all happy about anyone messing with her baby, and she goes on the charge, attacking the man and chasing him down, which must have been a little shameful in front of his buddies. But then he doesn't look like the type of guy who is easily ashamed, judging by that physique. Anyway, this was a definite win for the pigs, the real ones. Which of these animals would you never want to mess with? Have you ever messed with an animal that got its revenge on you? Let us know in the comments below. Also checking our other cool stuff showing up on screen right now. See you next time.